been doing it for about 10 years. The forum is being co-sponsored by the Union County College and United Tenants of Elizabeth. A little bit about the United Tenants of Elizabeth. We are a citywide tenant organization. We've been in existence for more than 10 years. Our job is to help educate tenants on what their rights are under the law and show them how to protect their rights. On a statewide level, we are associated with the New Jersey Tenants Organization. If they were here, I would very proudly introduce our former presidents, Paula Borenstein and David Byrd. The purpose of this forum is strictly educational. We wish to help tenants who are citizens of the community and other citizens of the community learn the views of the candidates running for public office here in Elizabeth. For the citizens of Elizabeth, and especially its tenants, these are very troubling times. For citizens, there are problems in the area of education, taxes, the economy, crime. For tenants, the issue of rent control, the use of a means test to determine whether a tenant will be eligible for rent control statewide, and the threat statewide to the homestead tenant rebate. As for rent control in Elizabeth, as many of you know, it has recently been under attack with the recent veto. It has been attacked as a cause of decay in Elizabeth and as a reason for tax appeals. We believe these arguments are false. Instead, the UT sees rent control as a crown jewel for this community, a reason for the stability and maintenance of Elizabeth's housing stock. However, as tenants, we should not be complacent. That's why we are urging those of you who are not members of the UT to join the UT, number one. Number two, to sign a petition that you can find outside that we will be sending to the state legislature about protecting the homestead tenant rebate. Homeowners and tenants benefit. And the third item, we urge all of you to vote on June the 2nd. One point I want to make, and I think it's very, very important, that it was lost in this debate that was occurring in City Council. Tenants must be recognized as members of the community. Some folks really did not recognize us as such. I've lived in this community for well over 20 years. Most of us, and many of us, have lived in this community for a very long time. We're taxpayers. And we may not be direct taxpayers, but we certainly do pay it through our rents. Our children go to Elizabeth's schools, and we buy in Elizabeth's stores. Now, for those of us who are concerned about where the ordinance is, I wish to inform you that yesterday, the City Council voted to extend the ordinance to December 31st, 1992. They did this in a pre-conference meeting or a caucus. They will vote on June the 1st, Monday, and under emergency rules to put it immediately into effect, and then it is signed by the mayor. Now, we're now going to begin the debate, the forum. The moderator of the forum is Rick Pearson. Rick Pearson is a long-time friend of the UT. He certainly helped us where possible. Now, beside that, Rick is a homeowner. He's lived his whole life in Elizabeth, as a matter of fact. He's a lawyer. And he's a member of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Rick is going to be running the show, and he's going to run it fairly, but very strictly. All the candidates know the questions in advance. They know the order they will be asked, so they're very familiar. And I hope we learn something from tonight, and I hope it helps us make our decisions on June the 2nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, and I'm glad those of you that are here have turned out. I'm glad that the candidates that are here have shown up. I think it's very important for as many people to hear as many of the candidates as possible as what their positions are. Only in that way will we have informed voters and hopefully informed candidates as well. I'll go on to the format for tonight. Each candidate will be asked to give a 1-minute opening statement. They can basically say anything they wish to during that time. And they will also have a 2-minute closing statement. Again, they can speak about whatever subject they wish. In between those opening and closing statements, there will be, 7 questions asked of each candidate. They will be given 2 minutes to answer each question. I will switch the order each time for the candidates to answer the questions so that each candidate will have an opportunity to answer it first before listening to the other one. I take no pride of authorship in the questions. These are questions that the UTE put together, and I think is reflective of their views. In fact, for the record, I'm not a member of the UTE, and although I am a member of a political party, I won't tell you what it is because I don't want to be prejudiced toward either of or any of the candidates this evening. So with no further ado, and what I'll do, by the way, I'll read the question for the audience each time so that each candidate doesn't have to restate it, hopefully. So first we're going to deal with the mayoral candidates, and then when they are finished, we will do the councilmanic candidates, or councilwomanic, as the case may be. At any rate, first for the mayoral candidates, the first question is, do you favor the continuation of rent control, and will you speak publicly on behalf of rent control? What would you do to make the ordinance better? And please give appropriate comments. First, I would call upon the Republican candidate for, excuse me, I apologize. I forgot to let them do their opening statements. So first I would call upon Jim, and I'll read the question again later. So first I'll call on Jim Dembeck, who's a Republican candidate mayor, and let him identify himself, where he lives, etc. Jim?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jim Dembeck. Been in this town as long as I'm alive. Most of you don't know the mechanics of election year. And I want to ask one question, which I start off with. How many in this room are registered Republicans? All right, there's 2 people I want to talk to. Because as you know, June 2nd, you can only vote your party line. I know that most people in this room, as same as most people that were in the room at the Elmore Association last week, were Democrats. wanting to hear from their 4 candidates running for the Democratic Party nomination. So I asked the moderator to please pass me by. Let's hear what they have to say, because that's what your interest is. Because by the hand showing, you're most all registered Republicans or independents who can't vote on June 2nd. Briefly, I just want to say the endeavors in my life have always been to my church in Elizabeth, my community in Elizabeth, and I served on the planning board for 13 years, the last year as chairman. I've been involved in Elizabeth since longer than for my whole life. I have a little pass-out flyer giving a little brief biographical of myself. If any of you are interested, after the evening, I'd be glad to give you one. I ran for mayor in '76 and as an independent, and this year I've decided, after coaxing from the small Republican Party that's left in town, to run as a Republican. And I hope to hear from you and talk to you many times following the June primary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Now I would call upon our 5th Ward Councilman, who is a Democratic candidate for mayor, Chris Bollwage.
Thank you, Rick. I'd like to thank Steve Schaefer and Rick Pearson, members of the United Tenants of Elizabeth, friends and family who are here from the United Tenants and homeowners. This election in 1992 is not about tenants, it's not about homeowners, it's not about the difference. It's about being united in what direction the city of Elizabeth is going to go in the next 4 years. This election is about the future of the city of Elizabeth. Where are we going and where have we been? I think we all know where we've been in the last 28 years, and that's evident by Tom's no-show here tonight. I think if he was attentive to the issues and attentive to the concerns of the citizens of Elizabeth, he would have taken the time to stop by this evening and express his views on rent control, taxes, housing, and other issues of concern. He chose to ignore this forum, and it should be noted. However, this race is about answers, and it's about solutions. We provided those answers, we provided those solutions in position papers, we provided those answers in the debates at Elmora, we provided those answers in going door to door, and when the questions are asked, if you notice, we give solid answers on crime and drugs, on rent control, on housing, and we look to the future of the city of Elizabeth. We want to set a new direction, we want to set a new course, and we need new leadership in order to answer the problems of the 60s that have been developing and continuing into the 90s. So on June 2nd of 1992, I ask that you support Chris Bollwage, Orlando Adrera, Patricia Perkins, and Ed Jackas, and bring new leadership and new answers into City Hall. And as you listen to the debate here this evening, you'll hear that the answers that we have proposed over the last 3 months will be the direction that the city of Elizabeth will take in 1993. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Since we've given both Jim and Chris about a minute and a half, I will certainly extend the same courtesy to Bob Jaspan, who's our present 3rd Ward Councilman, who's also a Democratic candidate for mayor.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Most of you know me. Most of you know me as a businessman in Elizabeth. Had a retail hardware store for almost 30 years. I think most of you, if not all, feel and know that I treated you with honesty, integrity, and always addressed the concerns that you had and any problems that you might have had. I was always there. I was always a listener, and not only a listener, but a doer, to take care of your problems. As a member of the planning board in the city of Elizabeth, I always voted for what I thought was right right and proper and in the best interest of all of the people in Elizabeth. And that's why I voted on the Midtown development, on the initial program that allowed for 15 acres. And that's why I did not vote for the extension of the blight area onto Morris Avenue, because I did not think, I knew it was not in the best interest of the people that lived there, the people that had their businesses. I knew it wasn't right, and I voted against it. The same problem we had with the rent control ordinance. It was very, very annoying to me to think that we had to rush through it. And most of you were at the meeting. My first words at the meeting of City Council was to extend the rent control until the end of the year. Those were my first words to you. I had some support from my colleagues, but not enough. My time up? 5 more seconds. Again, we'll go into it a little bit further. Thank you very much.